Okay, so step 2 in this, I believe, 8-step video series is to fix your sleep. The key idea is that before trying to optimize your life, or let's just say your conscious life, you need to make sure that your brain and your body are actually recovering every night. Now, you might seem to think that this is a little bit of a null point, how does this have such a big part in our lives? And, well, if you start to think about it, it actually starts to become pretty clear. There's a huge amount of data on this, which of course we're going to go through now, but it just makes sense that if you're going to sleep roughly a third of your life, and by the way, that's, not going to change until we get to the point where we can physically adjust our bodies, which even then I'm skeptical. If you have to sleep a third of your life, or in other words, if you have to do something for a third of your life, then why not make it as good as it can possibly be? Because at the very least, that third of your life is going to be a lot better. Now, that is just for the particular view of sleep itself. But the more important thing, funny enough, as who would have guessed, sleep actually is one of the biggest things to make your overall life better when you are awake. Which, who would have guessed that? So, of course, the only thing that came before this step, it's kind of, I'd say, a good order of priority, is to do hard things. If you haven't seen step 1, I would, definitely recommend to go and do that. There's a reason they're in this order, because, well, you should definitely do hard things as the priority, as we've talked about before, with how to get meaning in one's life. But this is, of course, why you need to fix your sleep. So, number 1, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine and Sleep Research Society recommend that healthy adults regularly get at least 7 hours of sleep per night. Regularly sleeping less than 7 hours is associated with higher risks of depression, obesity, diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, stroke, and overall mortality. Now, obviously, correlation, maybe not causation, or correlation is not causation. As we know, the type of people who maybe don't sleep that amount will, possibly be the higher type of people to maybe eat less healthily, let's say, if they're not focusing on their health. But there's a little bit more to it. Not least is it that, of course, there's health benefits with regards to the long-term impacts of your life. But I would argue that more importantly, it's the short-term that having good sleep actually helps with. And this links with step 3 a little bit more. But you have to have something in your day which is a pillar or an anchor that your body can literally get used to. And it's not just a brain thing for you to get used to. It's literally something we call the circadian rhythm, which is that basically your body goes through a cycle every 24 hours. And this is biology. You can't change this, unfortunately, at least yet. And so, or maybe fortunately. And so why would you basically make it so that your body is setting a circadian rhythm and expecting a particular continuation of that rhythm, and then you change it every single time? This is a big problem. So the first thing you have to do is pick a time, and it doesn't matter what time you pick, but you have to go to bed at that time. It can be whatever you want, really, but obviously it would be more ideal if you're going to sleep when the general population goes to sleep, because then you wake up, the general population is awake, and you can actually get more positive benefits in your life as opposed to just sleeping all day and staying up all night, let's say. And so pick a time, it could be 11, 12, 10, 9, it could be whatever you want, but you have to go to bed at that time every night. And I would recommend, even just to begin, obviously, you see people all have a bunch of different nighttime routines. I would heavily recommend just 30 minutes before that time to start your particular nighttime routine. And this doesn't have to be anything crazy. I think the majority of us, generally, as we get closer to bed, we will probably have to do our teeth, hopefully. We'll probably have to do, whether it's, bodily care, health care, skin care, whatever it might be, saying goodnight to your loved ones. And then maybe for the last 10 minutes you just read a book, as opposed to as opposed to something that might damage the nighttime routine. And what I'm referring to there is you don't want any bright lights when you're doing these things. So hopefully you can do your skincare routine in a low light at the very least. But you need to get in some kind of nighttime routine where your body can get used to this scenario where it feels different to the daytime. So this unfortunately means for those 30 minutes, you're going to have to put your phone away. I mean, I would recommend outside the room, but of course that's not a problem. My phone actually stays in my room. It's my alarm clock, but it's like the other side of the room. But don't look at it. Don't look at any bright lights. And again, you might think this is a little bit crazy, but it's not really a big thing. I mean, when it comes to it, it's just 30 minutes. You're going to be doing everything anyway. It's just turn down the lights a little bit and relax your body, get everything ready for that particular time you chose to actually go to bed. Then after that, as it says here, at least 7 hours is probably the best if you don't like sleeping a lot, but I think a lot of us do like to sleep. That gets onto lions, as we're talking about, but you should not actually increase the amount of sleep every night, or let's say on the weekends if you feel like it. This is actually not good. Not, again, just for the long-term risks, but also it ruins your day, unfortunately. Even though it feels like it's good at the time, it's definitely not good, which goes for many different things. Anyway, in the classic controlled experiment, healthy adults were restricted to either 4, 6, or 8 hours in bed per night for 14 days. Of course, they controlled as best they could. And people getting 6 hours or less developed progressively worse defects in attention and cognitive performance, as you might expect. And by the end, impairments were comparable to up to 2 nights of total sleep deprivation. Now, again, obviously, they did a control, so it helped with that. But you can see immediately, as you probably all know with studies, sleep is a pretty important thing. But the fun thing is, participants during this particular period did not even notice that they had been impaired. And this is actually something that you might hear many people say. I've heard people say that after, a long night out, they get in at, 4 in the morning, and then they sleep for like, I don't know, 7 hours, whatever it would be. Then they wake up and they say, yeah, no, actually, I feel pretty good. I actually slept really well because I was tired after that long night out. But this is completely wrong, unfortunately. As we know, you could feel completely fine, but then inside of you, everything is going destructive. So yeah, you got to measure these things, and you can definitely see that that's the case. Next up, number 3, sleep completely, not only just kind of controls, but affects your emotions. A meta-analysis covering 64 studies and 241 effect sizes found that sleep loss increased negative mood by about 0.45 standard deviations and increased positive mood. Sleep loss decreased positive mood by 0.94 standard deviations. Now that is huge, right? It's not only that you feel worse, but all the possibility that you would have to feel good is also reduced by quite a bit more, almost 2 times, if not more. And so there's, again, so many things that go into this. Now, I could just rattle off all the particular statistics from, all the people that, and many people that were tracked for longer term danger mortality risks, such as like cancer or all cause or cardiovascular or whatever it is, right? But I know we all know that, and in all honesty, I don't think it's for many people a very convincing argument. Many people say that when you're in your 80s anyway, that those 10 years aren't going to be great, so who cares? Even though I think that's horrific, and I disagree with it. I think the most important thing is to look at how it's affecting you now, and this is, as I said, such a core pillar and anchor to your lives that it actually affects how you feel in the day-to-day. So if you don't feel good in your day-to-day, I guarantee you, as we're saying here in literally the whole of the statistics, sleep is a part of that. It won't be all of it, but it is a huge part of that. You've got to fix your sleep. And again, all that is picking a time, 30 minutes before that, doing a wind down routine, literally just 30 minutes, that's literally nothing. You dim the lights, you stop any kind of working, put the phone away, obviously. You then just, do what you always do. Have a shower, clean your face, brush your teeth, prepare for tomorrow's, whatever you're doing tomorrow, and then probably read something, right? It's really not anything big. And then, of course, because you only want to sleep 7, 8, or 9 hours, you need to set an alarm to wake up then, and you have to get up then. But again, this gets onto something which we'll talk about in step 3, because waking up in itself, once you've woke up, some people don't quite leave. But, well, that's kind of it. Obviously, another point here on the circadian rhythm, which is something we talked about before. Your body is biological, and, well, basically for biology to work, it needs to sleep. And so what biology realized, or what it came to, is that, well, every day you should, have to be awake for a certain amount of time, let's say 16 hours, and then once you hit that 16-hour mark, you need to go to sleep. And so the way that it can time, it does not have a watch inside, is that every so often, let's say every 16 hours, if it looks at things which it has biologically noticed to be, markers for what particular time it is in the day, it will then use those markers to see what time it is for itself, so then it knows when to go to sleep, if that kind of makes sense. And so essentially that means that you cannot go to sleep at different times. You can't just keep changing the time you go to sleep and waking up, because your circadian rhythm is already set to a particular time that you want to go to sleep, basically. So, of course, that's incredibly important. Sleep obviously affects the appetite, as we're talking about. Sleep is a part of discipline, yada, yada, yada. There's so many different things that we can talk about. But again, when it comes to it, all you need to do is sleep exactly the same amount of time every night. Aim for sufficient sleep with a reasonable, consistent sleep-wake schedule. So all you have to do is, again, on the majority of nights, it doesn't mean that you have to be completely regimented or that you can't stay up later one night and watch a film, whatever. But if you can add some order to your sleep schedule, again, there's many people out there who are in very, very different scenarios with regards to how much difficulty they have with their sleep. But wherever you are on the spectrum, just start to edge it towards going to bed around the same time, having about 30 minutes before that time, getting ready for it, and then waking up about 8 to 9 hours later from that exact time. And that is what you need to do. So go and do it.